Welcome to this Roundup. Regardless of industry, digital transformation is underway across many enterprises. The reason is today the survival, security, and sustainability of enterprises across industries depends on digital technologies, digital strategy, and digital transformation. While the digital approach helps bring intelligence to create new opportunities, they also give us an ability to visualize new way of doing things. It is this ability to adapt quickly to the transformative changes brought on by digital technologies that emerges as a vital necessity and capability for digital transformation. With the digital transformation becoming the ultimate challenge of a digital age, transitioning to space age, it impacts not only the current industry structures and the strategic positioning, but all levels of an entity, every task, every activity, process, model, and its extended supply chain and ecosystem. To discuss how industries are approaching digital transformation further, I'm delighted to welcome Naresh Soni to this roundup. Naresh is the Chief Technology Officer at Tsunami. He's also a board director at Sierrabolics, an AI software company. He's a member of the Forbes Technology Council and is based in the United States. Welcome, Naresh. We're honored to have you on this roundup.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Wonderful, Naresh. So, irrespective of which emerging technology, the strength of digital technologies stems from how enterprises integrate them to transform their businesses and how they work. So, looking at the ongoing technology transformation across industries, can you explain how these digital technologies are transforming industries? Any industry from automotive, telecom, industrial, energy, healthcare to aerospace industries.
Yeah, so what we see is that transformation is happening in across different industry verticals. I see that in automotive, in energy, in utilities, in aerospace, defense. I think across the sectors, and this transformation is happening from end to end. That is from manufacturing, supply chain management, uh, design and product development. So this is happening all across the board. And I think there are quite a few benefits of digitizing these areas. And I think there are great deal of cost savings and efficiencies can be extracted from these digitization.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, when you say end-to-end transformation is happening, which technologies they are using for end-to-end transformation? Is it, I mean, when digital transformation is, there are many different versions of it. The most basic that we all have achieved before in the past is, get rid of the paper. And that digitization has happened. But the digital transformation we are talking about now are much more complex because of the advances in emerging technologies. So, what is the nature of the digital transformation that you see when you say the end to end transformation?
So the end-to-end transformation is happening from, like I said, product development to product release. Product development, for example, is happening where the design person develops product using digital techniques like CAD, CAM, and also releases drawings in digital formats. And then what happens is once that format is released, for example, if you want to do modeling in case of automotive, you can model all that before you develop a prototype. So you can, in certain cases, you can eliminate the prototyping stage and you can reduce the time it takes to you go to volume in a case of manufacturing. Once you release that drawing, goes to the manufacturing floor, and there are certain specific configurations required for these manufacturing technologies. So it gets handed off to advanced manufacturing, where they develop a digital model of the manufacturing line, and this digital model is simulated in a digital way where the assembly and testing of a given prototype is done in this advanced manufacturing digital technology. And then, it gets released across the globe. These are all global companies. to various manufacturing facilities, and that optimizes the time to volume for these digitization. Now, plugged into this is also supply chain management. So what happens is, depending on the requirements for these technologies, the yields, the efficiencies, the parts that are used, they plug into the supply chain management and also to their suppliers. And all the communication happens digitally to their suppliers. So let's say there is a yield issue in manufacturing. The appropriate drawings are generated digitally, sent to their suppliers, and then the bidding also happens from their suppliers. So also you can simulate which suppliers are having issues with sending certain parts, and you can then optimize the mix of these parts that are used for manufacturing. So, and then the dealership or the final product delivery happens also in a digital way. The type of packaging, the amount of let's say it's a consumer product or a drug or something like that. So the type of packaging, the pricing, the amount that goes into that package, all that is all that data is collected and researched, and using AI algorithm, you can figure out which package, which region will do well.
Yes, that
So there are
intelligence.
several benefits of all this, and then what I see is what happens is, let's say you have a manufacturing process, and some of the processes takes let's say 30 days or more than 30 days. So from start to finish, you don't know what your yields are going to be. So here, what you can do is, using digital technologies, you can capture, create a model, and creating that model, you can have certain variables that you can do what if analysis and see and model what your yields are going to look like, and then you can have appropriate mix of supplies, appropriate specifications of the ingredients that goes into that manufacturing mix, and then optimize for yields.
Yes, no, I hear you. All the cases that you just described. The first one that you talked about, the digital manufacturing. So, are the industries using now digital additive manufacturing and 3D printing so that they can send that program in digital format to all their companies that are or subsidiaries that are overseas, and so everybody has the same formula and everybody can produce the same way. And then this second is that you talked about uh, the second example that you gave was about the 5G and the internet tagging the supplies probably. So is the internet of things and the tagging capabilities, is it widespread now, to get the all the things on the, I'm not sure if they're still using blockchain or how they're using it. It's just the Internet of Things. But is it getting widespread from your assessment, Internet of Things and digital additive manufacturing? The AI, we all know that it's getting widely used right now. But Internet of Things, is it that widespread, in the use, in applications?
Yeah, so Internet of Things is getting, I would say, being deployed as we speak. Not each and every industry is equipped with IoT. They are still in deployment phase and still in digitization phase. But what I've seen is some of the advanced labs within their organization is already modeling this. They are showing the benefits. I've seen this. For example, they can streamline their whole process. So a part grows from one station to another station, and there is a buffer between the two stations. They can optimize that buffer, and they can also see where the bottlenecks are. And I mean, this is one example, but they can see where the bottlenecks are, and also they can using predictive analytics, they can see which machines will give what kind of efficiency, and if they are prone to failures. So if there is going to be any stoppage in line, so you can do predictive maintenance. So yeah, so definitely Internet of Things is still, I would say, in deployment phase. It's still not, I would say, widely adopted yet.
Yes, and that the one of the reason could be because the 5G is not widely deployed yet. So that may be one of the reason that IoT ecosystem is still not very active. But when we see a lot
Let me
of
interject here. I don't think IoT depends on 5G so much. I mean, there are certain use cases that would depend on 5G, and if you look at these factory floors, one of the issue is the business model with 5G. You have to pay to the providers recurring revenue. So there are other connectivity methods like such as Wi-Fi, such as Z-Wave. There are so many other methods for connectivity depending on the bandwidth you need that you can still do with the existing technology. And like I said, 5G is still not deployed here in US. It's still being deployed in other parts of the world like China and Japan and other places and Korea.
yes.
So I would say, I think in 5G is very much useful for automotive industry, because the amount of data that needs to be collected is very significant, and it has to happen fast, because the decision needs to be made by the driver and the provider in real time. So that is where I would say 5G can be used, and 5G can be used in robotic, real-time robotic. Let's say example is robotic surgeries or robotic processes. But yeah, so that's
Yes.
where I would say 5G would be very useful.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you are right that automotive industry would benefit greatly because of the large amounts of data and also the surgeries that you just talked about, because those both the industries will benefit tremendously from 5G because of the speed and large amounts of data that would need to be transferred. But so you think that for the rest of the industries, the IoT systems would work just fine by the 4G and whatever the current infrastructure is there, at the moment?
Um, uh, I would say yes and no. It depends on the use cases. Let's say if you are trying to do based on computer vision, your manufacturing processes are based on computer vision, then you need a lot of bandwidth. And if you cannot provide a lot of bandwidth, what happens is you need to have a wired connection. So what some of the industry verticals are doing is they are you know uh, deploying edge computing, and whatever within their factory floor, they do a certain level of analytics at the edge, and then or computing and processing at the edge, and then send the data to the cloud for further processing and using, let's say, if they need to use deep learning and AI technologies and things like that, and also for their data storage needs, they would use core cloud, public cloud. So that's what is happening. But existing technologies, if you're delivering very high definition video like 4K video and things like that, I think it's going to be very difficult without 5G.
Yes, yes, I agree with you on that. Now, all these transformation changes that we are seeing, uh, what is driving those changes? Is it just because the technology is available that in this businesses across
I think
industries are trying to transform, or is it the user behavior that is changing? For example, if we see healthcare industry, then the user behavior is shifting rapidly, and that is forcing the healthcare industry to transform with that user behavior because they don't have a choice. But do you see that kind of external push coming for the industries to transform, because the users, consumers, citizens, they are changing rapidly, their expectations are changing?
so. I think what is driving digitization is number one, I would say, productivity, because any CEO looks at these technologies and they want to see ROI. based on investment they make. And that is what is so productivity, efficiency, and also right type of product mix that they want, and so that helps them grow their sales. So for example, in healthcare, I think one of the area that is helping cure certain diseases is precision medicine, and with digitization of all the symptoms and all the analysis that is being done, I think can be solved with precision medicine. So medicine, basically serving to your needs and to your conditions. So same thing is happening in case of products. What CEOs want to do is they want to develop products that will cater to consumers needs or enterprise needs, and that's where I think this is being driven. And also, like I said, I think productivity is important because right now in this environment it's very difficult to hire people. And one area that I see very prevalent is in aerospace industries. The rate at which the workforce is retiring, they are not able to hire enough people to come in to the workforce, and for them to be trained. And same thing is happening in defense. So they need to be trained, and how rapidly they can train using some of the digital and immersive technologies is very important. So that's where I see a great need for digital transformation.
Yes, very true. I agree with you on that. Now, digital technologies, as we know, are contested commons, and everyone has access to it. So it's not like this IoT or AI or blockchain that it's exclusive to only certain organizations or certain countries. It is not like that. Everyone has access. So for any enterprise to get ahead of their competitors using any of these emerging technologies that everyone has access to, it doesn't allow them any inherent advantage because everybody has that, those technologies. So how do you see enterprises differentiating and getting competitive advantage using the, same technologies that everyone has access to?
Yeah, so if you look at products that these enterprises are creating, they have to be innovative in the first place. So I think their R&D has to definitely work harder, and also, like I said, I think there are certain areas. So I think you still have to invest in R&D. I don't think that takes away the R&D investment away or makes it more efficient. I think what digital technologies helps you, and a lot of people are thinking in terms of AI will replace humans. I don't see that anytime in future. I've started with AI back in 80s. I was at IBM and we used AI. IBM was very much a data driven company, right? We used to make decisions based on facts, we used to call it, and facts was data. So what I would say is that I think you don't take innovation away. It's just the processes and the way you interact with your consumer base, and you define your products and requirements, is you're gaining more efficiencies with this digital technologies. But like I said, your investment in R&D has to has to be there for
Yes,
you to be innovative,
absolutely.
to differentiate.
Yes, you're right. R&D investment needs to be there for each and every organization. But I think bigger than I mean, R&D is at the center of it. But even in R&D, what problems any enterprise wants to solve for their, customers, for their internal operations or efficiency or productivity or cost, savings, that visualization needs to be there. You need to vision what problems we can solve using the current technologies that we have. So I think that vision is becoming very important. So it's not like that the technologies have not existed before. So technologies, most of these technologies were there, for last several years, but we are witnessing a sudden rush into the digital transformation. So what is it that making that digital transformation suddenly becoming so much more interesting? What has changed in the last couple of years that was not there before?
Yeah, so the biggest change that has happened is the infrastructure that is available to make that change. The infrastructure, which includes hardware, software, and commoditizing of these hardware and software. The power of computing has grown significantly. So you now have, even in your iPhone, the amount of computing power that is there is tremendous. And also, I think for doing things like tasks like computer visions, AI, deep learning. You need a large amount of computing and also processing this data. You need large. So all that infrastructure is in place. Number one. Number two is that the data processing or data harnessing capability is now exists. The networks have become very resilient, and the bandwidth has also increased with deployment of fiber and other technologies. Even in mobile, you do have 4G now, and 5G is coming. So and the latencies have gone down, so you can make decisions. You're able to make decisions in real time. So I think having these technology, having the software associated with these technologies, has and also these cloud providers. If you look at them, they offer very broad offering now these days. So if you look at Microsoft or Google or Amazon, they have very broad. I mean, you look at speech recognition, computer vision. I mean, deep learning, and now they're offering in a limited way quantum computing. So I think the capabilities and infrastructure is now there, and which was not there previously years ago. And a lot of things were done manually, and the amount of effort required was much higher compared to what we have now.
Yes, no, those are really good points that you made. Now, you mentioned that networks have become resilient. Are you talking about that resiliency from a security perspective?
I am talking about from a RAS perspective. So reliability, availability, serviceability,
Okay.
and security is something. I mean, they have become more secure, but then what happens is security, uh, there are always some holes. I have not seen anything that is bulletproof, I call it, right? People do figure out how to get into a network, but I think if with some of the AI algorithms, if you can predict ahead of time that this are risks associated with the network, with your data, and with your storage or with your infrastructure, I think you can prevent that from happening as much as possible. So that efficiency has gone up, I would say.
Yes, yes, that is true. But at the same time, networks are highly flawed. There has been no evolution or advances as far as networks are concerned from the security perspective. Because if you see, anybody can send you, cyber missiles or all kind of cyber weapons, and there are no checkpoints. As soon as it enters your country, there nobody checks it. As soon as it hits your service provider, nobody checks that. What kind of a data that's coming your way. You don't know until it reaches your inbox whether the data is an email or a cyber weapon or some kind of MP3 MP4 file. So our networks are highly flawed, and that's the way we have been designed, and no innovation has happened in that. So that is something that innovators need to work on. I am thinking about that very seriously, how to make some kind of advances in that. But networks are highly flawed. The inner core of the whole cyberspace layers, all the 13 14 layers that we see, the inner core is highly flawed. It has been very primitive. All the advances are happening on the edge, but that is a topic of separate discussion, because security is a huge mess right now. But from the industries you have been working, I was reading on your LinkedIn profile that you work with automotive, telecom, industrial, energy, healthcare, and aerospace. So, what is a digital transformation success based on for them? What do they mean? When you see all these industries, what direction the innovations are happening as far as transformation is going on, that would give us some idea where the industry trends are moving.
Yeah, so areas where there are let's say danger to human being. For example, oil exploration, right? They go offshore and they do exploration offshore. Shore. Now, if they are able to do that using drone imaging and other technologies, I think they're quite a bit ahead, and they don't have to put their workforce in harm. And I think there are areas such as that. In case of utilities, for example, still have nuclear power plants, and you need to have very systematic shutdowns of these power plants. And there you need to have training, and also be able to simulate situations that doesn't happen every day. So, I think that's one area. The other area is, I would say, that digital transformation, these industries want to adapt digital transformations is, in aircraft manufacturing. In aircraft manufacturing, one thing I've seen is, you drill a hole in one wrong place, it completely they have to scrap the whole thing, and that's a huge waste. And some of the places I've seen is it can be of the order of 30% waste. That's very significant for them. So I think efficiencies matter. Also, the way work these folks are trained matter, so that they are not in harm's way. And I believe that's what I see going forward. I think that's the first step that people are taking. And now a lot of also processes are going digital also, so like sales processes, customer fulfillment, and even certain processes that we used to do manually. For example, document payment, account payables, account receivables, invoicing, all that. You have this robotic process automation (RPA) that people are using for these manual tasks.
Yes, yes, very true. No, and it looks like strategy is the key driver as far as the digital transformation is happening. It's not the technology. So I was recently in news. I saw that Microsoft and Nokia, they have announced a strategic collaboration to accelerate transformation and innovation across industries with cloud and AI and IoTs. So, which other companies are collaborating for digital transformation? Do you have any knowledge on that? Are the collaborations happening very widely, or this is more like one unique collaboration?
No, I think they are happening widely. I mean, if you look at some of the aerospace company, like Boeing, for example, or you look at Airbus, I think, and also other industrial giants like Schlumberger or ExxonMobil, or in energy and utilities industry, they are automotive manufacturers like Ford and GM. You're moving more towards the future of either hybrid or electric cars. So there uh, digital transformation helps significantly, and that's what is happening in these even heavy industries. And also folks who are enabling these industries, for example Siemens, they are very much in the middle of all this, and they are providing tools and technologies and software associated with this digital transformation, like IoT and IoT platforms, and digitization with their product lifecycle management, and offerings like that.
Yes, very true. Do you see any successful solutions emerging from those collaborations?
I do, especially. I do see it in healthcare. Previously, healthcare was very, I would say, well guarded system, and I think they are now, seeing the benefits of using cloud technologies, using some of the digitization. Uh, Especially now, I think it's happening in wellness and other areas, but also applying, certain symptoms and genomics and precision medicine areas like that. I'm seeing more and more, and I'm seeing some successes there because they are able to, for example, using AI, you can predict whether a patient will come back to the emergency room once they are discharged. So they can take additional precautions so that because of that, you don't have to have people returning to the emergency room. So things like that they're doing. You can also, based on symptoms and analysis, what I've seen in certain hospitals, they're predicting that a person would have heart attack or not. So I think these prediction capabilities are getting better. Also, the other areas that I see is, I think, especially what I see is, breast cancer is an I feel it is at epidemic level, and early detection is so important there. And I think I'm seeing technologies in imaging and AI that are being deployed and they're being used, and now they are able to detect at 80 to 90% accuracy.
No, those are really good advances. It would save a lot of lives, so no doubt about that.
Yeah,
Now, the
yeah.
history, yes, very true. So the history of technological advance, and the example before that, the example that you gave about machine learning for hospitalization and rehospitalization, that is also very widely used. I interviewed, a doctor, two neuroscientists from UCLA, and we had a really good discussions that we have published. And those are really great advances, and even for mental health, there are a lot of advances. All these, collectively are going to be very helpful, very beneficial, and not only saving lives, but also preventing a lot of security risk for nations. So those are really good advances happening now. The history of technological advances that we see across nations, across industries, across enterprises, are scattered with examples of focusing or just as just focusing on technologies without investing in their respective organizational capabilities. And that, many a times make change, play a big role whether the digital transformation initiative is going to succeed or not. Because if an organization is not mature in all the other areas, then the transformation effort that they are taking, transformation initiatives, they are going to face a lot of obstacles. So do you see that how do you see industries, or rather enterprises, overcoming those kind of specific challenges of their organizational capabilities in tune, so that they can benefit from the transformation of digital transformation?
So I think definitely I see there needs to be an organizational change. Now, as far as getting benefits from these digital technologies is, I think there needs to be a business sponsor. And this, if this is not deployed within the business unit, then I think it's challenging because, like you said, it stays in a silo, and it becomes an R&D exercise, and doesn't get utilized as much. So it is extremely important. One of the things, one of the public companies that I worked for, I was an executive there. The way R&D was funded was that 30% came from corporate funding, and 70% funding came from business units. So that is very important because if business unit funds R&D, what happens is business unit takes interest in the progression in the programs that are being done by R&D, and there was also always a good handoff between what was happening between R&D and the business units. So I think it's very important that this happens. And in case of the other thing that I see needs to change is I see that some of the CIOs they report into CFOs, and I think that needs to change. CIOs need to report to CEOs because CIOs are the ones who are making these transformations, and that I think that initiative and the drive has to come from the top rather than from a finance person. So that's what I think there needs to be. And also, the other thing is, if you look at it, I think in certain organizations, I see CMOs, that is Chief Marketing Officer, works very closely with CIOs. And some of the marketing functions are being digitized. And I think there I see a huge benefit in terms of, getting the product right first time and getting it to the market at the right time. Time to volume is important. So those things are happening when you have these organizational synergies.
Yes, very true, very true. Now, it seems that there is a profound possibility and permanent shift in the relative balance of power among nations and its governments and industries and all the different components of a nation as the connected computers and as these the whole cyberspace and the emerging technologies revolutionizes every aspect of society. So, do you think that in a level playing field, industries will be able to compete and lay a new foundation for their consumers, or for if it's governments for the citizens, or if it's uh, businesses for their users? Do you see that everybody would be able to take advantage, or do you see some major obstacles coming in their way, apart from the I mean, apart from the organizational maturity and the what the challenges that you described, about the roles and responsibilities and all those other barriers that come in the way, and especially the digital fluency, because a lot of decision makers are not digitally fluent. But other than that, if we look at things broadly, do you see that everybody would be able to benefit from the transformative ability that all these emerging technologies bring today?
I believe so. Let me just give you one example of the issue with water. Water is a very precious resource, right? And you need to deploy technologies which, conserves the usage of water in agriculture, in other areas, and using digital and IoT and other technologies, you can have appropriate mix of the soil. You can water at certain time of the day. You can control the amount of water that is used to give you the maximization in terms of crops and all that. And also, it should also give you as to how much resource you have. When innovation happens when you are starved of resources, right? So if you are starved of resources, water is the resource, and if you think of it as a resource, I think if you think that I'm going to run out of water, I'm going to innovate around it. I'm going to figure out ways to use less water. Same thing happened with uh, I mean these fuels. These fuels are causing a lot of pollution and all that. We innovated and we came up with electric cars. So I think it's mother of invention is need. If there is a need, innovation comes.
Yes, very true. If there is any innovation comes, because it's a matter of survival, right? We figure out how to
Right.
survive because we have to survive. So you are absolutely right about that. So
Yeah, there's a book recently that I read from Andrew McAfee from MIT, and he has shown history from 1800 that we as humans have already always adopted. At one point in time, there was a concern in 1800s that with the population growth, are we going to feed that many people? On an average, we are able to feed that many people.
yeah.
So what he is showing is, right now there is a issue with climate change, right? And I think with these digital technologies and help of other technologies that we are, I think we will be able to survive and we will be able to conquer this climate change. And I believe that that is what helps, because people see that climate change is causing a lot of havoc.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that because there is so much brain power all across nations that, if we know that we are facing existential secure, risk for a future of our humanity, everybody is going to use their power. And as you see, I mean, nanotechnology, I'm already hearing, a lot of advances happening where you can use nanotechnology to clean up the air, water, a lot of advances are happening. So we will be able to tackle the challenge that is in front of us, climate change, or poverty, or feeding, producing food enough for everybody. There is no doubt about that. What is a challenge is that whenever there is a new innovation, like, if you look at history, there was a time that we will get one disruptive innovation, and for entire century, the countries will keep fighting about it, to develop their supremacy. Now we are getting so many disruptive innovations. It's happening every now and then. And the digital, disruption that we are seeing right now, uh, rather than disorder, not disruption, digital disorder that we are seeing across nations, is because of the power, that is all these technologies provide. Each of these technologies, from blockchain to AI to any IoTs, they all have such potential that all the algorithms, all these nations, they're trying to control the algorithms, even including 5G, that whoever controls the algorithm they'll be able to control the data flowing on that, and they will be able to get access to the intelligence, and they will become more powerful, and they will have more economic power and security power. So these are the challenges that we are facing right now. It's not about the technology itself, but it's about who gets more power because of the technology. And that is why we are at a very vulnerable point right now, since the end of Cold War, where there is a huge amount of tension across every country, that if they are not able to lead in the emerging technologies, that they will pick up whatever weapons they have on their hand, and some kind of war will start, other than cyber warfare. So there are a lot of risks coming our way, and that causes a lot of concern to a lot of decision makers and even the common citizens across nations. That is the power of the technology. But from your assessment, what is it that one thing you would like to change as to how nations strategize digital transformation, and they move forward? What kind of innovations they should try to come up with, so that it benefits society and not destroys society?
So I think what I see is even developing countries like India, Africa, what they are doing is the digital transformation is at the highest political levels. So, that is something that is and when you have things that are being adopted at that level, and it's being deployed at that level, I think that is what needs to happen in other countries and other nations also. And like you said, what happens is that initially, when there is a disruption happening, things are a bit cloudy, I would call it, right? People don't understand it, people. But I think when for example, mobile phone mobile phone was I mean, I worked at Bell Labs, and I was the one who also worked on the mobile phone architecture. It was a brick phone, and but it was expensive. It was the plans were expensive, but look at what is happening today. I think so that is so important, that these things are it trickles down to common people today. Even common person anywhere across the globe has access to mobile phone, and that has enabled a lot of digital transformation in human beings too. So that's what I would say. I think it takes time, but eventually, I think if the highest level of politicians start thinking about it, start adopting it, I think the change can be orderly and can benefit the society.
Yes, that is the key, that we want orderly change, and especially when we are seeing so many disruptive innovations emerging one after another, we need to make sure that we plan the future better so that everyone can benefit, and each of these advances are for the benefit of the humanity and not for the destruction of humanity. Because this cyberspace has,
We have 3 minutes to
democratized
wire. You better finish. Yeah.
either constructive innovation or destructive innovation. So we have to make sure that the destructive innovations are not overpowering the constructive innovations, and that at the end of the day everybody benefits, and we move forward as a collective, one civilization, one human species, and not as tribes, as what we are seeing right now. Everybody is going back in tribal mode, and everybody is looking after only their interests. So we have to think bigger and make sure that the entire human species is protected and that we all advance at the same time. So having said that, what would you like to tell our global viewers and listeners, especially those young minds who are really keen on making a difference?
I think definitely, and I hear that from some of the young people that I mentor also. I think what they see is, number one is they see income equality as an issue. And then they see that climate change is an issue. So I think given that, I think if these technologies that they are developing, one student at Columbia University, he is developing a blockchain technology that will enable each and every common person to have access to that for their own secure transaction. Today I think we are exposed to so much data, and our data is being used for various targeting and things like that. So I think having this technology, and each and every younger mind, actually, to be honest, what I see is, when I go to college campuses, I see that they're thinking about along those lines. And I think if they start thinking about they want to be in civil service, they want to be contributing to overall good of the society. I think that's the type of thinking. And I think today we have this tribal mode, but I believe it's temporary and it'll go away. I think inherently we human beings are meant to work. I mean, look at what globalization has done to us. It has brought all of us together. Distance is not an issue today, and we are able to connect with each other through internet or through even physical connection. So I think that is what I see. I'm a positive person, so I see that eventually things will settle. I think we are going through some I would say chaotic phase, because we've had a very good phase of globalization, and now we are going through bit of reverse. And I think people are becoming more and I mean, I see a point that globalization, there were advantages taken by certain nations, and I think that there needs to be a level playing field now. So I think that'll happen.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to be optimistic for the future of the humanity. And globalization, yes, it did bring a lot of benefits, but at the same time, see, planning and risk management goes hand in hand. So if you don't foresee the risk, if you don't identify the risk that any of such initiative could face, as go forward on that, then you are not prepared. You would not the change management that needs to be part of that was never there. I mean, especially if you look at United States, so many industries moved to China, and we invested so much in China, and then we gave them our technical knowledge and know-how, and now it happens such that a lot of, not only the industries moved from here, but the job losses also created that mindset that people started hating that whole word of globalization. There is so much anger about that. So if we had planned properly, then we could have prevented those kind of reactions that would have not made the United States citizens so angry about, the whole meaning of globalization, and at the same time, we created a very powerful enemy in China. So now they are, they are competing with us. So a lot of these things, where you invest, how you invest, what you do. I mean, each country has to. While we all need to go collectively move forward, we also have to make sure that we are not. Hurting our country, and we are at the same time protecting our citizens, our jobs, so that that backlash doesn't happen. And right now what we are seeing is backlash against globalization, which is very unfortunate, because we all want globalization to go forward, because at the end of the day, we are all one human species, and we all need to work together, solve all of our problems. I mean, think about the potential. If all the data of every single individual from across nations, everything we have, then we will have so much intelligence using data analytics, that we can solve pretty much any problem. But now we are seeing data silos. Every country is trying to protect their own data, so we will not have access to the entire global world's data. And that is very unfortunate, because we will miss out an opportunity to solve big problems facing humanity. But that is where we are, because of how certain decisions we have taken in the past. And there is not much we can do, except that we are very mindful about identifying the risk that will come our way, irrespective of what technology transformation we are looking at, or any other initiative we are working on. Having said that, thank you so much, Naresh, for participating
Thank
in
you.
this roundup today.
Thank you. Enjoyed the discussion.
Wonderful. So we appreciate your thoughtful insight on digital transformation. And even if a single decision maker can understand the trends in digital transformation based on the discussion we had today, this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Risk Roundup, a global initiative launched by Risk Group, is a security risk reporting for risk emerging from existing and emerging technologies, technology convergence, and transformation happening across cyberspace, aquaspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they all walk together in harmony. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. It is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So, if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the risk concepts, to watch the risk concept videos or hear the risk concept podcast,
Bigger bold.
policy.com, and do not forget to
If we
subscribe.
have PowerPoints,
Next time on YouTube. What's up, risk roundup? Signing off. See you next time. Thank you.